My boyfriend and I have been together for a little over 2 years and have an amazing relationship. We both have solid careers in healthcare that can take us anywhere. We recently decided to make the move out of state to venture out and experience something new. I've lived in my hometown my entire life and have never moved away from family, so I'm thrilled to branch out. This happened quickly because of the start date for my new job, which is next month. His family is in the new area we're moving to, and I absolutely adore them. I'm extremely close to my family, and I love them dearly, so breaking the news to them was naturally hard. They love my boyfriend and have been supportive of our relationship thus far. I've lived with my family throughout college and currently live a 15-minute drive away from them. I expressed my excitement for this move, how we have jobs secured, and that we'll have good people around us. At first, their reactions were reasonable and expected. Bummed, asking me a million questions like any parent would, and then some forced excitement. After a few days of processing for my family, I started to receive very emotionally charged texts and lengthy emails from my dad saying that my moving is the equivalent to me dying and that they'll never see me again. My sister has been texting me saying that my decision to move for a boyfriend is tearing our family apart, that I'm ditching my family, and that this is a terrible decision. My sister also sent a pretty hurtful and manipulative text to my boyfriend saying that if he truly loves me, he wouldn't be taking me away. I've made it very clear to my family that this decision was made by both me and my boyfriend, and that I'm excited and happy for this new chapter, so I'm unsure where the idea that I'm being whisked away is coming from. My boyfriend would absolutely never force me into making any decision, and if there was any hesitation or doubt on my end about moving, we would have immediately stopped the process. At this point, I'm beyond blown away and heartbroken by my family's reaction and would have never expected such a response from them. I've tried reasoning with them and being understanding, but there is a point where I can only take so many awful texts and emails from them. I completely understand there is a grieving process for this, but not sending what feels like manipulative and hurtful texts and emails. I just need some clarity and input because I'm astounded by my family's reaction and cannot think straight. What was supposed to be an exciting and fun experience for me and my boyfriend has turned completely sour. Thank you in advance. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I'm also blown away. Blown away that they would try to torpedo your happiness for their convenience. It's 2024. It's relatively easy, with motivation, to keep in touch with people who move away. That's not love as far as I'm concerned. Maybe they can see this another way in time, but I personally would be sending them a message expressing how much they've hurt me, and if I was feeling wicked, saying they've made it easier for me to move by showing me their true colors, but that's not my actual advice. And taking a break from talking to my family, not saying full-blown no contact, but low contact, like not responding to these texts at all, until they show me they can have a normal relationship. Ironically, the only thing that will make you resent your family more than this reaction is if you give in and don't move. In all likelihood, you'll end up wondering what might have been, or worse, it could ruin your romantic relationship permanently. Please go ahead with your plans. You can always move back if it isn't what you want it to be. The best next thing that can happen is you move, and they come to terms with it. Comment 2. That just sounds like their love is geographically limited if they can only be supportive if you're near, which sounds like a silly way to define love. These days, you don't lose relatives if you move, as there's enough technology to make a relationship possible. Are there other reasons they don't want you to leave, like you taking over certain responsibilities for them, maybe babysitting or something for your sister? You are entitled to live your life, explore the planet, and find what jobs you do and don't like, and if you can tolerate the in-laws. At 25, that is the perfect age to do so, before you have established roots of your own nuclear family that need certain long-term stability. Your family had those same options regarding decision-making, and they chose their own way. If you communicate, go from the angle of informing. Don't try to convince or explain, because it's not in their benefit to understand. so be factual and stick to what you plan to do. Then they can either get with your plan or show that they are not supportive relatives. Ignore guilt trips, just like they'll ignore your reasoning. Now, for the update. In the few weeks after I last updated, I actually moved out of state with my boyfriend and started my new job at a hospital nearby. My boyfriend settled into his routine, and honestly, I was excited to get the hell away from my family and start fresh. I really thought I could leave the drama behind, but then my sister decided to text me, asking if we could talk. I could feel the tension through the phone, and it made me really uneasy. I wasn't sure if I was ready for whatever she wanted to discuss. We scheduled a call for the weekend, and let me tell you, it felt super stressful the whole time. My gut was telling me that this wasn't going to be a fun chat. So, the call happened, and she just jumped right in, accusing me of being selfish for leaving. She was so focused on me that she mentioned how our dad was still upset about the whole move. Apparently, it was all my fault. Her big thing was that Dad was avoiding family gatherings since I left. I had no clue he was still acting like that. A week after that call, I got an invitation to my brother's baby shower. I thought it was a good idea to attend, hoping it would help mend some family ties. I really missed the good times we used to have, even if they were rare. So I showed up at the baby shower, and my dad was cordial but distant, like super cold. My sister couldn't help herself, making passive-aggressive comments about my new life at every chance. During the gift opening, she gave a handmade blanket, and Dad praised her like she was some kind of saint. I couldn't help but feel a bit overshadowed by that. After the shower, I pulled my dad aside and asked why he was still upset. He admitted he felt betrayed and thought I had abandoned them. I was honestly taken aback by that. This conversation quickly turned into a heated discussion about loyalty, and I just had to walk away. A few days later, I found myself in a coffee shop near my new job, trying to enjoy my new life. While I was there, I ran into a family friend who mentioned my family's issues. This friend spilled the beans that my sister had been bad-mouthing me to everyone. This really pissed me off, and I knew I had to do something. I decided to confront my sister during a scheduled family dinner at our parents' house. My brother and his wife were there too, and I kind of felt sorry for them. My sister made a snide remark about my fancy new life during dinner, and I just had to calmly respond, pointing out the text she sent me before I moved. That caused an uncomfortable silence at the table. My sister tried to laugh it off, but the tension was thick. I pulled out my phone and showed everyone the texts she had sent me. My dad looked shocked, and my brother seemed really uncomfortable. My sister started shouting that it was just a joke, but nobody was laughing. I revealed my plan to expose her behavior to the family, and it escalated into a full-blown argument right there at the dinner table. My sister stormed out, and I could see my dad finally starting to understand my perspective. My brother promised to talk to her about what she had done, and I left that night feeling a little better. I still have a lot to figure out with my family, but for now, I'm focusing on what truly makes me happy. Edit. The situation with my family is still ongoing, but has improved. My dad and I are on better terms, and my brother's baby is due soon. My dad has been more open to discussing my life here, and my sister has calmed down a bit. Overall, I'm still focused on my happiness and job. Am I the idiot for leaving my wife after she secretly baptized our daughter? So, I don't particularly like religion. It's fine for other people, and you're allowed to believe what you want to believe. I totally mean that, and I totally respect other people being religious, but I just don't want any part of it. My father grew up in Catholic school, and he's told me horror stories about how kids would get physically punished if they did things wrong, and one time he got whacked pretty badly for talking back to his teachers, and then beaten at home by his parents for disrespecting God or something. So he has no religious bones in his body now. Additionally, my best friend growing up got kicked out of the house for being gay, and all the other stories you see in the news about religious extremists being disrespectful in the name of God. So, I just don't like religion really, and do not intend to ever make that part of my life. I have been to churches for funerals and weddings and stuff, and have no issue with that, but I never intend to go for my own relationship with God or whatever. Anyway, my wife Alice grew up in a Christian background. Nothing extreme, just going to church every couple of weeks, and everyone is still progressive and everything. When we were dating, Alice was not particularly religious. She generally believes a God exists, but she only went to church when visiting her family. She never put pressure on me to be religious, and when I would visit her family with her, I would just stay home if they went to church together, and nobody ever said anything. We talked about kids, and we were both of the opinion that we weren't going to force any religion on our kids, but if they decided to be religious, then we wouldn't stop them. It seemed like an arrangement that was working well. Now we are married and have a 14-month-old daughter. Things were great at first, and there was no religious pressure or anything happening yet. But 4 months ago, Alice's mother was in a car accident with another vehicle. Nothing severe, she wasn't even injured. The other car just turned a corner too tightly and scraped her car's side. But everyone freaked out and acted like this was an insane car accident, and it's a miracle that my mother-in-law survived. This has sparked in Alice and her entire family a huge religious fervor. Alice thinks that this was a warning from God that she and her family aren't devout enough, and she started going to church much more often, giving them a noticeable amount of money, including some of our shared finances, and trying to put Christian decorations around our house, like napkins that say, "God is good." I do not like this. If she wanted to just go to church more, then okay. But I do not want my money going to a religious organization, and I do not want decorations that are explicitly religious in my own home where it will make me uncomfortable. She has also started mildly shaming me for not buying into all this and wanting to join her in being Christian. And she made a subtle jab about my gay friend's lifestyle choices, but did not go into it, which is an issue I am certain that she picked up at church since she's never had a problem before. On top of this, Alice has also started to read our daughter books about God and other Bible stories. This is despite us agreeing not to try to shove religion down our kids' throats and let them figure it out for themselves when they grow up. We have argued numerous times about this, and it is really hurting our relationship. Now for an update. I feel like my last straw came 2 weeks ago. I had to go out of town for the weekend because a distant relative passed away. I went by myself, and Alice stayed home with our daughter. Apparently, while I was gone, Alice decided to take our daughter and get her baptized at church. The way I found out about this was because I checked the mail a few days later, and we had received a letter from another member of the church congratulating us on the baptism. I was furious. I am really at my limit here and don't know what to do. Part of me worries that I'm just being intolerant or biased unfairly or something. But my wife and I agreed on how to live our lives and raise our kids regarding religion, and now she is throwing all that out the window and forcing me into a religious family. I do not currently feel compatible with her and her values, and I feel like she is disregarding all of my wishes on raising our family. What do I do? Can I get us back on track or fix this somehow? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Going from a live and let live attitude to a judgmental bigot over a minor car accident is not indicative of someone in a good place mentally. Do you think your wife would join you in some marriage counseling? She's making unilateral decisions about your home, your finances, and your child without consulting you about it. These are boundary-shattering events that need to be confronted in one way or another. Regardless of her newly reinvigorated beliefs, marriage and parenting are partnerships, and she does not get to demand the role of a familial tin pot dictator. Comment 2. I would be livid. Forcing religion on kids is grooming. For all their protect the kids from groomers, they sure love getting them early and impressionable. You need to sit her down, explain this is not what was agreed to, and you don't appreciate her forcing religion on your child behind your back. If it were me, I would give her the option to stop, work through it in therapy, or the marriage is over. She is completely disregarding your beliefs and the agreed-upon parenting discussed. This is way out of line, original poster. Now, for the update. It's been about 2 days since Alice baptized our daughter without telling me. I came home to find a church letter congratulating them on the baptism. I confronted Alice about the letter as soon as I walked through the door. She said she thought it would be a nice surprise for me. I reminded her that we agreed to raise our daughter without religious pressure. Alice claimed she was just following her mother's wishes after the accident. I suggested we sit down and talk about it, but she refused, saying I was being unfair. That evening, I decided to call my sister for support. My sister had her own experience with family conflict over religion. She told me to focus on what I want for my daughter. The next day, I noticed Alice had put up more Christian decorations around the house. I asked her to take them down, but she insisted they were part of the new family dynamic. We were invited to a family dinner at her parents' house that weekend. At dinner, Alice's dad brought up the church and how proud he was of Alice. I decided to speak up and mentioned our original agreement. Alice looked embarrassed, and her dad shot me a disapproving glance. Alice's mom chimed in, saying she thought baptism was a beautiful thing. The conversation quickly shifted to how I should be more supportive. I felt cornered when Alice's brother, who went through a similar experience, took her side. After dinner, I stepped outside to collect my thoughts. Alice followed me, demanding to know why I was upset. She accused me of being controlling and closed-minded. I decided to leave the dinner early. Once home, I packed a bag and booked a hotel room for the night. I texted Alice that I needed space to think about everything. She called me, but I didn't answer. The next morning, I got a text from Alice saying she would invite the pastor over to help us. I texted her back that I wouldn't be coming home. She responded with a long message about how I was overreacting. Later, I received a call from Alice's mom, asking me to come home for a family meeting. I declined, stating that I needed time alone. Alice texted me again, saying she felt I was making a big mistake. I replied that I was tired of feeling trapped in a situation I didn't agree with. I decided to call my sister again to discuss what I should do next. Edit. I want to clarify that I have no problem with others practicing their religion. My issue is that we had an agreement regarding our daughter. As for the church decorations, they are everywhere in our house. Alice even put up a cross in our daughter's room. I didn't take it down because I didn't want to escalate things. Regarding our daughter, she is only 3 years old and doesn't fully understand what baptism is. Alice's family has a history of being manipulative. Am I the idiot for losing it when my fiancé went on a date during our break? My partner, a 30-year-old male, and I, a 28-year-old female, have been together almost 9 years. We have been engaged now for about 8 months and are planning the wedding for 2025. We have obviously been together for a significant portion of our transformative years and are different people than when we first started dating. We have talked about marriage throughout our time together and looked at rings multiple times over the years. We wanted to wait until we were done with college and a little more settled. After we got the ring, my partner said he was having second thoughts about marriage. I was pretty upset about this because in our entire 9 years together, he never made any indication that he wouldn't want to get married someday, and we talked about it a lot over the years. After that, we went to therapy a few times and thought we had it worked out and that he was okay with the marriage part, but didn't really care about all of the stress that comes with having a wedding. I have always wanted a wedding growing up, but I also see his point about not wanting to spend so much money and have all these elaborate things for one day. Our parents are helping us, and we came up with a number that he feels comfortable spending. Well, now that we are planning the wedding, he recently brought up the fact that he doesn't want to feel trapped in the relationship and mentioned the idea of exploring being with other people, whether that includes threesomes or an open relationship, since we have only been with each other. I am not sure that I want either of those. I have potentially thought about a threesome, but I am nervous about bringing someone else in if this is already how he feels, because I don't want to add more fuel to the fire. We are somewhat opposites in the relationship. I am much more of a type A person, a list maker who is always doing things, a people pleaser who really hates confrontation, and someone who has a hard time opening up and expressing myself. He is much more of an abstract thinker a free spirit who enjoys arts, music, movies, video games, and so on. He says that he is starting to become unhappy in the relationship because things have typically always gone my way, putting an emphasis on getting things done from a list, like cleaning and cooking, versus prioritizing our time together, or his time. I completely agree with that and realized I wasn't consciously making an effort for us anymore. So that is something I am working on, as well as not shutting down during discussions. We have decided to take a month to really think about what we want in the relationship and in our lives, and then have a talk about how we will move forward, whether that means a wedding or not, or a breakup or not. We both feel like it seems silly to break up because we have a good time together. Intimacy isn't really an issue. We laugh, travel, and enjoy being around one another. I guess I don't know what my question is, but I am going crazy thinking back and forth about whether this is going to work out or not. My brain always defaults to it not working out. It seems impossible for me to picture a good ending. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. He has tried to back out of this wedding, and instead of letting him, you went to therapy and fixed it. Now he says he doesn't want to be trapped and wants an open marriage. Again, he is trying to get out of marrying, but is too cowardly to call it off. My advice is to cancel the whole thing, dump him, and move on. You have wasted your 20s on this man. Don't waste your 30s as well. Or ignore my advice. Marry him, have a few threesomes, then divorce at age 38. Comment 2. He doesn't want to marry you. He's just too much of a coward to be honest about it. Or he doesn't want your families and friends to see him as the bad guy, so he's coming up with all these roadblocks in hopes you will end the relationship. Make his day and just break up and move on. Somewhere out there is a man who wholeheartedly wants to spend the rest of his life with you, but you'll never meet him if you keep letting this bozo string you along. Now, for the update. A couple weeks have passed since the month apart began. Honestly, I've just been trying to bury myself in work and keep my mind occupied. The more I work, the less I think about the whole mess. My partner reached out to meet for dinner to talk about our time apart. We decided on a small Italian restaurant that used to be our go-to place for date nights. I felt a bit nostalgic picking out the place, but I knew the atmosphere would be heavy. When I got there, it just felt like everything was hanging in the air. He arrived late, looking super stressed and distracted, like he hadn't slept in days. We ordered our usual dishes, trying to keep some normalcy, but it felt forced. The conversation started awkwardly, with small talk about our lives. He mentioned spending time with friends who encouraged him to explore open relationships. He just casually dropped that he had gone on a date with someone he met online. I mean, what the actual F? He insisted it was just a casual outing, but the vibe shifted so dramatically. When I asked him how it went, he hesitated, then said he didn't know. This made me so angry. I just couldn't hold back anymore, and we started arguing right there in the restaurant. It got loud enough that other tables started looking over, and I could see some people were trying not to stare. He suggested we could try an open relationship again. I was just done at that point. He admitted he didn't want to lose me, but felt trapped in our current dynamic. I was like, dude, you have to make up your mind. We can't keep going around in circles. The whole point of this month apart was for both of us to figure out what we wanted. Outside, I realized I had forgotten my phone on the table. When I went back to get it, I overheard him talking to someone on the phone. I caught snippets of the conversation about wanting freedom and how he felt confined in our relationship. Like, what the hell? I confronted him about the phone call, and he tried to dodge the topic. We ended up arguing again, and the restaurant staff had to step in. The poor people working there were just trying to serve dinner. I was so done at that point. I stormed out, leaving him behind. I needed space, so I avoided his texts for the next few days. Honestly, it was kind of peaceful. On a weekend, I went to a family barbecue, hoping to distract myself. It worked for a bit, until my mom asked about the wedding plans. I just smiled and said everything was fine. After the barbecue, I returned home and found my partner waiting for me. The mood was pretty tense. We had a conversation about our future, which ended up with more questions than answers. He just looked so confused and lost. I felt bad because I know he's struggling, but we can't keep doing this. A week later, I got a text from him suggesting we meet again. I was like, great, more talks. We met at a local coffee shop, and he seemed more reserved than before. I could just tell he's been thinking a lot about everything. He revealed he had gone on another date and felt it might be the right choice for him. I just didn't know how to react. I've been trying to process everything. It feels like we're just two people standing on different paths, and he's thinking about taking a different one. I'm not sure where this is headed. Edit. I appreciate the support. My partner and I have been together for almost 9 years, and the engagement is still fairly recent. I've never been in an open relationship myself. We initially thought taking a month apart would help us, but it has only led to more confusion for both of us. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.